What is going on, sports fans, and welcome to the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon, welcoming you in on this beautiful Wednesday, January 10th, 2024, and we are inching closer and closer and closer to Super Wildcard Weekend. We are just days away. We've got breaking news throughout the league. Pete Carroll has been fired as the Seahawks head coach. Now will take on the role of an advisor. Not quite sure what that means just yet. The Giants defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, has mutually agreed to part ways with the organization. All that, still no word on Bill Belichick. And we've got so much to talk about. So welcome in today. Hope you're having a great day. Man, there's just so much news coming everywhere. It's like my brain cannot handle all of this. I was out to lunch with my grandmother. God bless her, out to lunch, and planning for the show this morning, prepared for it, kind of got what I wanted to talk about, but everything just gets derailed when the breaking news comes out, because that just has to take precedent, and we're going to have to talk about Pete Carroll to start the show today, because not only was that not expected by anybody, it's incredibly shocking, and it doesn't even make sense about what's going on here. Now, he's 72 years old, and when people get old, they kind of question their ability to commit to things, but he said himself, he was not tired. He was ready to go. We even talked about it. He said it himself. He was planning on returning as head coach, so whether or not something happened to change the course of what's going on there, very shocking. Adam Schefter broke the news. Wink Martindale, of course, we know he was planning on resigning as defensive coordinator. Now he finally has parted ways. We just have so much to talk about. And I'm sitting there at lunch, eating a chicken teriyaki stir fry. Phenomenal, by the way. If you don't eat chicken teriyaki, eat chicken teriyaki. It's great. It's got the chicken. It's got the teriyaki sauce. I think there's rice pilaf in there, or whatever it is, or fried rice. And then it's got vegetables. Yeah, carrots, baby corns, and broccoli. Phenomenal lunch that I had. Great, and thanks to Gma for hooking me up with lunch today and treating me to that. But sitting there at the table, my phone's blowing up. Pete Carroll just got fired by the Seattle Seahawks. What? And then there's just so much news going on, so we gotta talk about it. You're listening to the Gabby Gordon Show. Let's get down to business. Welcome to the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon, welcoming you in on this wonderful Wednesday. And we got to get straight to business, because we're not going to have enough time to talk about things, and things just keep happening in the sports world. And I know that's how sports works, but man, we have been thrown for a loop this afternoon. The Seahawks fire head coach Pete Carroll. Now, we know the coaches who have had rumors to not return, and most of them have already been out of a job. The only one we're really waiting on is Bill Belichick at this point to see what happens next. Pete Carroll was a shocker to the internet, a shocker to the world. Adam Schefter broke the news, and here is the statement from Seahawks owner Jody Allen. It reads, "After thoughtful meetings and careful consideration for the best interest of the franchise, we have amicably agreed with Pete Carroll that his role will evolve from head coach to remain with the organization as an advisor. Pete is the winningest coach in Seahawks history, brought the city its first Super Bowl title, and created a tremendous impact over the past 14 years on the field and in the community. His expertise in leadership and building a championship culture will continue as an integral part of our organization moving forward. Pete will always be a beloved member of the Seattle Seahawks." Again, that statement is on X, and it was sent out by owner Jody Allen moments after the news broke about Carroll's firing. So, what happens now? Well, first off, something just doesn't seem right here. First off, what does advisor even mean? All right, we have no idea. Is he going to be the advisor to the new head coach? Is he going to be the advisor to the coordinators? Is he going to be the advisor to the GM? Is he going to be the player's advisor? What role is he taking on now? And what changed from when he spoke to the media saying he's not done yet, he's ready to go, he's planning on returning as head coach for this next season, to now? What changed? makes me wonder, maybe something happened, or maybe he realized he just can't do it anymore. He's 72. He's a Hall of Fame coach, no doubt about it. He has won in all aspects of the game. But what has changed? It just seems odd to me. And now you have conversations that they may already have their replacement head coach coming in, maybe already built in. There's 7 head coaches that were fired. And there are 7 head coach openings across the NFL now. And there's a lot that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. But now we have to talk about Dan Quinn, because it doesn't seem normal that they would have fired him, but Dan Quinn seems to be the next best option and probably the favorite option to take over the role as head coach. He has stated that he wants to take over a head coaching role once again. We know he was head coach of the Falcons. Now he is not, but this may be the moment that Dan Quinn steps into Seattle and takes over that head coaching position. But what does that leave Pete Carroll? Is he going to be around his players? Is the whole reason he's staying as an advisor to keep the morale of the players who he has earned the respect of? I don't know. There's a lot of questions surrounding this news that was broken from Adam Schefter, and I'm sure that we're going to hear more in the coming hours, in the coming days. I hope we will have a bigger story. There's not much of this story yet. All we know is that he was fired about 34 minutes ago. The news broke, and it went from him being fired to now he's going to potentially remain in the organization, not as head coach, to now he is an advisor within the organization. And now we hear that there is significant interest in Dan Quinn, who's the Cowboys' current defensive coordinator, who also worked with Seattle from 2009 to 2010 and 2013 to 2014. Then he was head coach of the Falcons for the rest of that time. And since then, he has been Cowboys' defensive coordinator under Mike McCarthy. So, there's really not a lot of story to tell here, except that it doesn't make quite enough sense as to why they would have just booted him from the head coaching role. And the point that I believe I heard on the Pat McAfee show by some of the guys was maybe they're keeping him as an advisor to keep the morale of the team up because the players want him there. But then again, if Pete Carroll walks out of Seattle, he can get a job anywhere. There's 7 head coach opening spots. 7 head coaching openings across the NFL. You don't think he can get a job in any of those teams? He can probably get a job in all of them. He is a winning coach. He has had struggles. He no longer has Russell Wilson. And a lot of things changed, but it doesn't take away the validity of his talent as a head coach. So now it's like, well, if they sat him down and said, hey, Pete, we don't want you anymore as head coach, but in order to, keep our morale up, we want you to stay for the guys, and we want you to act as an advisor for the guys because we know they love you, and you've worked with them for years, and you've built a massive career in Seattle. Not only is that disrespect, it's like, nah, I can get a job somewhere else. He doesn't need Seattle. He made Seattle what it was. He made the franchise what we know it to be. He raised Russell Wilson in Seattle. So, I don't know. Weird situation. Definitely a weird situation. In his time in Seattle, he has undergone 14 seasons, 137 and 89 record, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and 1 Super Bowl win. Pete Carroll is the man. And whether it is as an advisor with the Seahawks or somewhere else, I think that he is still going to make an impact in this league. I want to play for you, the clip from Pete Carroll. This was published on January 8th, so 2 days ago. And Pete Carroll said he's not worn out, he's not tired, he's ready to do this thing for another year. He's 72, but the wheels are still turning and their wheels are still rolling. They just barely missed the playoffs. They handled business week 18. It was an unfortunate way to end the year, and it seemed like he was ready to return.
Of course I do. Of course I'd love to do that. Do you expect him to? I do. At this point, I do, yeah.
So he was asked, do you expect to be asked back? Would you like to come back? And he said, at this point, I do. He said, I plan to be coaching this team. I told you I love these guys. That's what I would like to be doing and see how far we can go. So a lot seems to have changed from 2 days ago to now. And I don't know what may have changed or if there's something else we don't know about that has yet to be a part of this report with Pete Carroll. It just seems odd. Things changed within 2 days from one extreme to the next extreme of him ready to coach into 2024, saying he is not tired, he's ready to do this. Once again, they just barely missed the postseason. Cards didn't work in their favor. To now he's not head coach anymore. He's not out, but he's not the head coach. He's an advisor, whatever that means. And that just seems like one extreme to the next, like something happened in between that we didn't quite hear about it. So that's breaking news, and I hope we get more information regarding it because it just seems like very random. And even Adam Schefter stated a shocking move from the Seahawks to let go of Pete Carroll as head coach. Even though he's an advisor, we still don't know what that means. I have no idea what advisor means in this situation, and I hope we can figure it out soon so that maybe we can get to the bottom of what actually has changed from those 2 days apart. Pete Carroll, I'm ready to go. 2024, here we come. And then now he's no longer head coach. And we'll see what happens with Dan Quinn if he takes over the role and what else happens in Seattle. But we have another departure. This one is in the New York Giants organization. This one's been brewing for many days. It's been a rumor for many days, but it has now been made official. Wink Martindale has officially departed from the Giants. The Giants announced earlier today that the organization and Martindale have mutually agreed to part ways, and we know the relationship between him and head coach Brian Daboll has gotten very tense when Martindale learned of Daboll's planned staff changes, and the organization changed up a little bit, and he didn't like that very much. This has been many days in the making. This has been in the news. This has been tension. And this news comes 2 days after Martindale and coach Brian Daboll had a very heated disagreement over the team's decision to fire outside linebackers coach Drew Wilkins and his brother, defensive assistant Kevin Wilkins. It is said that Martindale outwardly cursed out head coach Brian Daboll, was not happy about those decisions, and it was building up for the remainder up until now that he was going to resign. They were going to part ways. They had stated, the Giants, that they wanted him to remain defensive coordinator, but it didn't seem likely that that was going to actually come to fruition, and it's been in the news all week thus far, and the news has finally broken. He is out. At the beginning of the week, it was Monday that Brian Daboll and GM Joe Schoen met with the media, and it was then that Daboll announced the team had fired the special teams coordinator and offensive line coach. And in that same news conference, it was announced it was his expectation that Martindale would be back, even though he said he had yet to talk with Wink Martindale. And then 5 hours after Daboll's comments, The Athletic had reported that the team also fired the Wilkins brothers, and then, of course, an hour later, news of the rumored resignation from Martindale had broken, and it just seemed like stuff hit the fan pretty quickly. And Daboll had met with Martindale after his news conference, according to team sources, informing him of the coaching changes. Daboll told the coordinator he wanted him to stay, but that he would be firing the Wilkins brothers, citing his desire for, quote, a new dynamic. And then, of course, Martindale cursed out Brian Daboll, yelled, F you, and stormed out the room, left the building, and then that all became public. Team sources confirmed that they had not been able to reach the defensive coordinator since he left the team on Monday. He was spotted in an airport in Sarasota, boarding a flight to Sarasota, Florida on Tuesday. He has a home in Florida, and things just completely escalated out of control, and it has now been announced they have parted ways. Brian Daboll and Wink Martindale have very different personalities. Sometimes opposites attract. That is such a cliche phrase, but it is true in some cases. This time, it did not work out in their favor. Things have escalated over this entire week, as I mentioned, and for anyone who's following the Giants closely this season or is a Giants fan, this divorce isn't really that big of a surprise. To me, at least. It's not a huge surprise because there's been friction between these two. There's been tension between these two all season. They have different ideologies, and it's not that they were necessarily in a bad place. It's just that they're very different coaches. They have very different styles, and I just don't think it clicked. And especially after hearing that the guy cursed Dable out. I mean, that's your boss. So you're looking to get fired in that case. It's not stated that he was fired. It is stated that they mutually parted ways. So I'm hoping it was done in a respectful way. Doubt that it was. But of course, they don't want the media to know that more stuff has hit the fan and that it's even more of a tense situation in the front office and in the organization. Because let's be true here, the last thing the New York Giants need is more problems. That is the last thing they need. They're coming off of a disgusting season with a lot of troubles, a lot of adversity. The whole Tommy DeVito situation was a bright place. Seems like it was the only bright place. You have conversations about Saquon Barkley no longer returning. Possibly has played his final game in a New York Giants jersey. He's going after money. Will they pay him? Who knows what deal's going to be there? He doesn't comment on it. He's a quiet guy. Now you lost your defensive coordinator. Now you have tension within the building that is still there, even despite Martindale out. That situation doesn't go away just because the guy walked out the door and resigned. That doesn't work that way. So now the Giants have a lot more things to deal with. They have got questions, and they're not necessarily in a great place on January 10th, 2024, today. So now at this point in time, again, Wednesday, January 10th, it is now the storyline that Brian Daboll is overhauling his coaching staff. And if it fails for next season, there is no one else to blame but Brian Daboll. He will no longer be the guy they look up to change this thing around, and he will be the one coach that is fired on the Black Monday of the 2024, well, it will be 2025 in that case, season for the Giants. They have been caught in a cycle, the Giants, of replacing their head coach every 2 years. They broke that trend this week, but now they're just replacing everybody else. And with that Martindale information that broke, that's kind of the icing on top of the cake, and now it's like a ton is changing for the Giants, and if it fails, it is all on the head coach, Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll is the rare Giants coach to reach a third season. Ben McAdoo didn't do it. Pat Shurmur didn't do it. Joe Judge didn't do it. They were all fired within 2 years. But now there's a lot of heavy lifting to do at the start of his third year as Giants head coach. And honestly, I think as the days go by, we're not even playing football if you're New York Giants. You guys are on the couch now. Your season's over. But his seat keeps getting hotter and hotter, especially after this situation. I know it's not completely on him. Martindale needs to be more professional. Regardless, you disagree with your boss in life, you don't go and curse him out. It should have been a sit-down conversation. Now, I don't know what else happened behind the scenes, and I'm not going to claim to know what else happened behind the scenes, but the facts are facts, and he cursed out Brian Daboll when he wasn't happy with the decisions and with the firings. And I get that, but you got to handle it better, and that's not all on Daboll's shoulders, but his seat is getting progressively hotter as we move on. So the next question that goes into this offseason and this third-year journey from him is he going to cast a wide net of coaching and staff making? Or is he going to look into familiar faces, maybe even within his own house, of the organization of the Giants to fill the vital empty roles now of his staff? He's got familiarity with internal options. Those who do have past working experiences as well. What does the future look like for the New York Giants coaching staff? What does the future look like for Brian Daboll? It's really going to come down to time telling the story. No doubt that they needed to turn things around, though, and I don't disagree with Daboll's decisions to kind of bring the U-Haul in there and just completely clean house. I don't know if that's totally what the intention is for the Giants. I don't know if they're totally cleaning house here and just starting fresh, because they didn't have a season where it's like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. Daniel Jones got hurt. They still somehow see him as the franchise quarterback, and we'll see what happens with Daniel Jones next season. I think he's past his time. I think he had time to prove it. I think he failed miserably at proving it, but they did make the playoffs last season, all right? They made the playoffs, and that counts for something. They just dropped drastically this year, and of course, adversity strikes, all teams go for it. The Giants just went through it a little bit tougher than some other teams, and it really put a negative light onto their organization. Is this necessarily a bad move from Dable and Joe Schoen and the entire upper house of the organization? I can't tell you yes or no because I don't know what the replacements are going to be, and I have no idea what this Giants team is going to look like in the 2024 season come September. So there is a lot of questions, but there's also a lot of time for those answers and time for the Giants now to get it right. And now Brian Dable, Joe Schoen, they have to get it right. If they don't get it right, then I think it's time to truly clean house. But now it's time for them to truly get this right, draft correctly, get your draft pick, and make it happen. They've got the draft pick. Now they just have to make it happen. Don't screw it up, and we could see a different Giants team next year. They've got talent. It is talent that has not been worked with properly, and talent that has been plagued by unfortunate situations, and sometimes pretty poor coaching. So now this is the time for them, after their staff overhaul, to show that they made the right decision. This is the time for Brian Dable to prove he belongs there. He's already broken the other previous 3 head coaching records of Ben McAdoo, Pat Shermer, Joe Judge being there for a 3rd year now. They only made it 2. This is his moment. This is the Giants' moment, and this offseason means a lot to them. Coming up after the quick break, we've got more NFL news. We've got some pretty insane matchups to continue following as we head closer and closer to Super Wildcard Weekend. Andy Reid spoke about the below freezing weather that is expected to be in Arrowhead when Miami travels to Kansas City. That is going to be a tough one for both sides, but Andy Reid says, we're not here to play a snowball fight. We're not having a snowball fight. We're here to play. More on that after the break. Welcome to the Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon, welcoming you back in. We've got a lot of NFL coaching to discover and still uncover throughout this entire offseason, but that was 2 very big stories of the day. We know the Wink Martindale one was just bound to break the news, but Pete Carroll really shocked me there, and I'm sure there's still more information to come around the league. We're still waiting on Bill Belichick, too, so whenever you want to make a decision, Mr. Belichick, we're ready for it. We're ready for it. But nonetheless, we have football in just a few days. Even though the regular season is over, the real, true, exciting season is now beginning. That is Super Wildcard Weekend, and the 2024 playoffs will kick off, where there are a pair of AFC matchups on Saturday. One of those contests, and the first one we'll be discussing today, is the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are going to host the Miami Dolphins, who have been a bit disappointing as of late. Kansas City finished 11-6 and won its 8th consecutive AFC West title and earned the number 3 seed in the AFC playoff bracket. 6-seeded Miami, they are the 6th seed here, 11-6 finished their season. They lost their last 2 regular season games, including a showdown with Buffalo for the AFC East crown in the finale, and they are dealing with injuries left and right to key players on both sides of the ball. It has been rough for Miami, and it is not going to be any nicer with the weather that is expected in Kansas City on Saturday. Kickoff from Arrowhead Stadium is set for 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Kansas City is currently 4-point favorites in the latest Chiefs-Dolphins odds, but, wow. The weather is about to be brutal. Kansas City is no stranger to playing in cold weather, but you know what? It is a lot different from Miami, Florida, and temperatures are expected to be in the single digits, wind chill expected to be in the negatives. Everybody in attendance at Arrowhead is going to need some massive blankets, and the coldest Chiefs game in a long time, but the last coldest game on record was January 7th, 1996, when it was 11 degrees at the start against the Indianapolis Colts. The second coldest game was 2020 in the AFC Championship against the Tennessee Titans. This is not going to be fun for Miami, and I don't know about Mike McDaniel, but he doesn't seem like a guy who likes the cold very much. He seems like a guy who likes to be comfortable, and that entire team's going to be very uncomfortable. Miami is still seeing temperatures from the mid-70s to low 80s throughout this week. That is huge, all right? I mean, your body might go into shock. It is not going to be fun. for Miami. But then again, you sign up for this, and a huge part of playoff football is the weather that surrounds it. You see Buffalo all the time. They are playing in snowstorms. New England as well was playing in a literal snowstorm against the New York Jets this past weekend. So you kind of work towards it, and teams find how to break that adversity because it is another form of adversity. You can't control the weather, and when you can't control it and it's getting in your way, it's an obstacle. I'm sure Miami is preparing. I am sure they are well aware of what the forecast says. I am sure they will be bundled up. But weather matters. And Tua's hands are going to freeze. And frostbite is going to hit his fingernails. And that ball is going to slip out a little bit differently than it usually does. The ball will be cold. It is going to hurt to catch that ball for those receivers. It stings. All right? So you ever swung a baseball bat in 30 degrees and it doesn't hit the barrel and your entire hands just vibrate and sting, and it's one of the most painful experiences for an athlete, for a baseball, softball player. I can't imagine what it's like to get a bullet from Patrick Mahomes or a bullet from Tua Tagovailoa into your hands, and you don't catch it quite the right way, and that thing just murders you. And it's like, damn, you're humbled. Well, Andy Reid didn't seem too concerned about the weather. This is what he had to say regarding the upcoming playoff matchup where winner takes all.
Yeah, so we probably won't go out today, but there's a good chance we're out tomorrow. If we go out, we'll go out. But right now we got a little bit of snow out there.
And there's a value to being in the elements as much as being able to do all you need to do that exercise.
Yeah, I think I like being on the grass as opposed to the artificial surface more than anything.
Coach, some of your guys in Green Bay over the years said they thought they had an advantage when a warm weather team came up and had to play them in December. It didn't always work out that way. In your mind, is there an advantage sometimes for guys who live and work in conditions versus people who come up from a completely different weather?
Yeah, I don't think you bank on all that. That's where you get into trouble. The guys are pretty resilient, and so you get yourself ready. And if it works out that way for you or whatever, I don't know how to quantify that, So I just say get ready for the game. Let's do that. I don't really care what goes on out here. We're not having a snowball fight.
Hey, he's right. You're not having a snowball fight. This is a dog fight between two talented teams, and Miami's coming in there. They are crushed right now. They lost the last two regular season games that they played, and they've got injuries left and right. They had some serious adversity. Tyreek Hill's been dealing with his own personal issues off the field as well. This is big for Tyreek. He's returning to Arrowhead, playing against his former team, his former coach, his former quarterback. We know the dynamic duo that Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill were able to produce when they were together, winning a Super Bowl through that all, winning multiple championships through that all. So it's a big game for these two teams for multiple reasons. And it is a good point that Miami comes in to not the OG frozen tundra, because that is the house of the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau, but it is a frozen tundra. It is going to be miserably cold in Kansas City. The weather is not nice, and it is going to be a tough adjustment for guys who are literally in sunshine and palm trees and 70, 80 degree weather coming in there, and now they're going to be seeing like below zero wind chill. Going to be tough, but I'm sure that Mike McDaniel and that entire team has the exact same mentality right now going into this game that Andy Reid has. Doesn't matter about the weather. That's out of our control. Let's control what we can control and get out there and get a win. Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We're not going to turn around and say the weather is the reason that we're out of the playoffs. It's going to say that we're the reason that we're out of the playoffs. I'm an athlete, and my coaches have always told me throughout my career, control what you can control and stop worrying about the things that you can't. And a lot of these coaches, when they come into this tough weather with high stakes and a lot of media and a lot of rumors and the situation where Tyreek's returning to Arrowhead once again, where all eyes are going to be on him, it's out of your control. What you can control is how you prepare for the week ahead and how you come out there and fight against your opponent. And both of those teams need to focus on that. And every team going into this playoff race needs to just focus on that. Because there's a lot of things that are out of our control these days. And, maybe this is a token of motivation for you. It's hashtag glass half full year. I've denoted that in our show. Looking on the positive side of things because it changes your life. And these two teams especially, just control the controllables. If it snows, it snows. If it rains, it rains. If it's a tornado, it's a tornado. Do what you got to do. Don't get caught up in the madness of the media and what everything else has to say about you. Now on the Miami Dolphins side, look, Kansas City hasn't had the cleanest year, but Miami has been struggling as of late. And I heard the Hard Knocks clip of Mike McDaniel and his motivational speech to the guys. I'm going to play it. We're going to talk about it. Here's the speech. He basically just sits his guys down in the meeting room and gives them some motivation. Here's what Mike McDaniel had to say after their disappointing end to their regular season.
What it will take for us to realize all of this frustration and do what we've done all year, what it's going to take is all of us being together, no splintering. Our goal from the onset was the AFC East. All right, you got one game. You beat the Bills, and you're AFC East champions. And you're playing at home in the playoffs. Our mindset collectively has no time for anything else. We are in this together, earning it for next Sunday.
Obviously, the dramatic music in the back by the HBO Hard Knocks producers. That clip was from Hard Knocks, by the way, in season with the Miami Dolphins. It's all over the internet as well. Obviously, the music behind it makes it a lot more dramatic than it really is. It's just a coach basically pouring his heart out to his players, saying, we need to do better. He was saying, we didn't place these expectations, no one else placed the expectations on us to be great. That comes from in our own hearts. We want to be great. So all we can focus on is how to be great. And I think both coaches, Andy Reid and Mike McDaniel, have the same philosophy in that fact. They're very different people. Don't get me wrong. Very different people, very different personalities, but they have the same mentality where control what you can control, leave everything else that you can't control out of your mind, and focus on winning each game. Focus on winning the day. Win the day. And then it just adds up. And you keep winning the day over and over and over, and then eventually you win the week, and then you win the month, and then you win the year. So I think for both of these teams, a lot rides on this, a lot to prove. Ultimately, only one can get the job done, and based on the recent trends of play, it does look like the Chiefs have the upper hand here. They are at home. It is going to be brutally wicked in cold weather, and Miami's traveling after some tough losses and still a lot of injuries. So based on that, it looks like KC can get this one done and move on to the divisional round. But anything can happen any given day. That is sports, and that's why it's so exciting to talk about, so exciting to watch, and so excited to follow for what happens for these two teams. We do have some news that does not regard NFL coaching, does not regard the Super Wildcard weekend, but it does regard football and the NFL, and somehow this man continues to be talked about even though he only played about 4 snaps this regular season in its entirety. That's Aaron Rodgers. We know the situation between him and Jimmy Kimmel. I refuse to talk about that any longer because not only did it get to a ridiculous boiling point, but it's over, and it is over officially because ESPN has terminated Aaron Rodgers from his scheduled show appearances on the Pat McAfee show. That is it. He's off for now. So there's a big hole to fill there, but we will no longer be witnessing Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays on the Pat McAfee show for the foreseeable future. I don't know how much this decision came from Pat McAfee himself. I can tell you from a fan standpoint of watching his show, when Rodgers goes on his rants, it's not what he wants for the show. It's a sports show, and he said that today. He also kind of insinuated that he's kind of happy this happened. He said, quote, "So Aaron Rodgers Tuesday Season 4 is done." He said, there could be a lot of people who are happy with that, myself included, to be honest with you. The way it ended, it got really loud. Real loud. It did get loud for Pat McAfee. And never his intention. I think, honestly, his show is just to talk about sports and give people a break from their day. He has said that time and time again. His catchphrase is, be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It could change their life. That's his catchphrase. And that is not what has been represented on his show in recent weeks since Rodgers has been on there spewing whatever misinformation it is that he spews. Do I think it was blown out of proportion? Yes, but were the words that were stated not okay to be stated on ESPN? You gotta remember, he's no longer just a YouTube show guy. He's on ESPN now. He's with the big dogs, and he is a big dog, and it went insane, and it should get quiet now. Thank God it should get quiet now. But we know Rodgers, and we know it's not going to stay quiet, and there will be something else about the offseason, or he's going to say something else, or Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays on the Pat McAfee Show are over. Actually, on CBS Morning's Talk of the Table, I just want to put this one in here before we leave this topic and head to break. Charles Barkley said some really funny stuff about what would have happened if Aaron Rodgers implied anything about him regarding the list.
Jimmy Kimmel had said that about you. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers had said that about you, implied that you had been on the Epstein list, how would you handle that?
I'd have punched him in the face.
What do you mean, punch him in the face?
You know what the hell punch him in the face mean? Like, I think that when you're in the limelight, people get to say things about you that goes with the territory. But that when you start comparing people, saying you're hanging out with pedophiles and people having sex with underage girls,
dangerous allegation.
That's dangerous.
But Jimmy has responded. I like how Jimmy.
I love how Jimmy responded. But listen, I don't know Aaron Rodgers. He's always been cordial. I said hello to him a couple times. Mm-hmm. But like I say, you can make fun of celebrities. That goes with our territory.
Yes.
But that's slander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you say people he hangs out with pedophiles and people having sex with underage girls, I would just, again.
But you mean metaphorically you would punch him in the face?
No, I meant rhetorically, whatever the hell. See, she got me using big words. Hey, I don't even know what those words mean. Rhetorical, metaphorically.
You don't mean you would
No, I don't even know what they mean.
Rhetorical, metaphorically?
I don't even know what those words mean. Hell yeah, I'll punch him in the face.
Rhetorical, metaphorical, no. Charles Barkley is coming in there and boom, punching Aaron Rodgers in the face. Love that. That just makes, look, it is not anywhere near a lighthearted situation when you make serious allegations, whether or not they were supposed to be allegations. When you make serious statements about someone like that, it is not lighthearted, but I just wanted to end on that note because it did make me laugh. We're moving on. After the break, honestly, I'm not sure where else we're going today. There's so many different directions we can go in. We'll figure it out after the break. You're listening to The Gabby Gordon Show. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to The Gabby Gordon Show. My name is Gabby Gordon. Some interesting news around the league regarding Jim Harbaugh. Antonio Brown is expecting to father his 7th child. Congratulations to Antonio Brown. I'm not sure what that situation is, but I saw that on the news. Hey, he was a football player. He was a damn good football player, too. He hasn't played since running off the field with his shirt off and waving goodbye to the crowd in Tampa Bay. But he was a pretty good football player, and it would have been nice to see where his career went, but he has reportedly, he's having his 7th child. So congratulations to Antonio Brown. This is interesting to me here. This has to do with Jim Harbaugh. We've talked a ton about Jim and the Michigan Wolverines, and they are still probably on cloud 9 after winning their first national championship in a long, long time. Now, on Pardon My Take today, it was some interesting stuff said about his potential decision to go to the NFL, and maybe it's already a lock.
Do you think that Harbaugh is more or less likely to leave Michigan after winning a national championship?
Oh, he's gone. He's gone. He's going to win He's going to win a Super Bowl championship. It's already his mind's already they might celebrate today and have some fun in Ann Arbor. They should, but I think he's on his way to the NFL.
Wow. Okay.
And this is even bigger. This is a larger story than what it was before the national championship, because now you've got 7 open coaching spots. Now you've got the Seattle Seahawks news that just came in with Pete Carroll out. That's a talented team. Look, any coach, any team, let me rephrase, would be honored and privileged to have Jim Harbaugh as their head coach. The energy he brings and the way he cares about his players is something that you don't see out of a lot of guys. And I'm not discounting any other head coaches, especially not Kalen DeBoer, because he's got incredible coaching, charisma, and talent as well, but we're just not talking about him in the NFL sense. You take Jim Harbaugh, you put him in the NFL, things are different, but I think he brings a kind of a fresh mindset to the game that we don't see in a while, and it kind of spices things up a little bit if you see Harbaugh back in the NFL, especially now that his brother is pushing for a Super Bowl now too. You'd have the Harbaugh brothers in the NFL again, and it'd be pretty cool. Now, I don't know how much of the information that was just played is actually accurate, but these guys seem pretty confident. So, I mean, based on that, I don't know. We're going to have to see, but there's a lot of openings now for Jim Harbaugh in the NFL, and I think that he could pretty much land any spots that he wants. And I think that if he decides to stay in Michigan, he can stay for as long as he wants. He really has free range, and he's done some incredible things in his career as a coach, and just lately as well now. The world's talking about him for all the right reasons, and it's a beautiful thing because they went from speaking about him and allegations and controversies and scandals to now speaking about him in the sense that, like, he's the man. And I'd love to see him in the NFL. I'd also love to see him stay in Michigan. This is another story. See, this is the crazy time of year where it's like there's just so much to talk about and so many stories we need to continuously follow. You got to continuously follow these because it could change on a day's basis. I don't think that Harbaugh would announce anything until after the Super Bowl anyway. I think he's going to take a lot of time celebrating this with his guys, celebrating this with the boys who aren't going to be there next year, who are going to be making a run in their own NFL careers. And maybe Harbaugh might just follow them in the coaching future for him in NFL if that is the case. But J.J. McCarthy will no longer be the quarterback. Blake Corum will no longer be their running back. It's going to be a different Michigan team. And with all that, of course, we're still waiting for J.J. McCarthy to officially declare for the draft, but with all that, it could happen. Now, I didn't want to just, sneak in that Antonio Brown news because not only is it incredibly random for me to do so, but it is newsworthy. And Antonio Brown has been newsworthy for a long time. When he's in the news, it's usually not for a good reason. This time, I, of course, can't. You need to take it with a grain of salt because it's Antonio Brown, but beautiful thing. He posted on Twitter this morning, actually. It was 11:39. I can't really read this because this is, it's Antonio Brown. But he's basically just said, F it, I'm rich. Let's do it. And he's having a baby. 7th child. Another week. More action by Antonio Brown that probably has you shaking your head in pure shock. We have not talked about him in a very long time. And, he is a content machine. If you thought Rodgers was a content machine, I think Rodgers gets it from AB, honestly. Because it is just incredible that we've seen things written, 3 blogs, potential hundreds regarding him in the last few months. Hundreds and hundreds of articles written about him. And I could not believe this post when I saw it. I thought it was a joke. I can't say for sure whether the reaction he's giving this woman who's holding up a pregnancy test is confidence, happiness, or whatever, but to each their own, and may it be a blessed pregnancy and a safe and healthy delivery and a safe and healthy child. He definitely, though, posed for that picture. I have without a doubt, he posed for that picture and said, yup, that's a banger tweet, and hung up the phone. Because it was a FaceTime picture where he announced it. It was literally him on FaceTime with this woman holding up a pregnancy test, and it's positive. It's got the 2 lines crossing over each other. He totally said to himself here, I honestly, truly have no doubt. This is an incredible Twitter post. Pose with the pregnancy test. Let me post it. 2024, y'all. 2024. Look, I mean, they do say anything you put on the internet lives forever. You have a digital footprint that lives forever. You guys learned that in middle school probably, where they tell you about the digital footprint, how it works, and that you got to watch what you post on social media. It is so incredibly true. And my suspicion is that this tweet will come back to haunt him at some point. And honestly, how much money does he have left? He had near $90 million earnings in the NFL, but like, he seems like the type of guy that would just blow through it. And he said, F it, I'm rich. Let's do this. Let's have a baby, whatever. I guess we have no choice to believe him if he says he's rich, just like we had no choice to believe him about the reasons that he literally walked off the field. It's not even a figurative. He walked off the field in the middle of the game. Not only that, he walked off the field shirtless in the middle of a game in front of Tom Brady, of all people, and all the fans over there. I mean, this man is insane, but you know what? It makes for good news. And he's having another child. So, God bless him. And honestly, he's been like, to me, pretty relevant for a while. Like, I don't know what's been talked about him in the news. I don't follow Antonio Brown. I think he completely ruined his life and could have had an incredible rest of his career in the NFL. He was talented. He was a talented athlete who just let his head get in the way. And unfortunately, that is reality sometimes. But he's I don't know, man. I really don't know. You know what? We're just going to move on and pretend that we never heard about that news, because it's not something you see every day. Last bit of news I want to get to today is actually in a place we have not visited in quite a while. That's the MLB. It's been quiet. There's been not a ton of action going on, but there is some action in the Bronx now with the potential acquirings in the future of Marcus Stroman. This has been a big back and forth for Yankee fans for multiple reasons. Number one, he was a Met. He is a Met. And number two, he hates the Yankees, and he hates Yankees fans, and he has said it multiple times on his Twitter, and he also performs very poorly in his career in Yankee Stadium. So we're going to get into a little bit of what the media's been talking about with Marcus Stroman. How likely is this? Right now, the Yankees seem like true frontrunners to acquire him. He's a good talent, but do you really want him on the Yankees roster? And when I said he is a Met, obviously he was not a Met last season. He played for the Cubs last season. He's played for the Blue Jays in previous years. But to me, when I think of Marcus Stroman, I think of him as a New York Met. I always will think of him as a Met. And he hates Yankees fans. He really does. So this is an interesting discussion to have. Earlier today, it was reported that, as of recently, the Yankees have held productive discussions with free agent right-hander Marcus Stroman. That's reports of John Morosi of MLB.com, but there is no indication right now that a deal is close at this time. USA Today's Bob Nightingale reported over the weekend that the Long Island native has expressed interest in pitching for the Yankees, though the team hasn't made an offer at the time. On the one hand, signing him is really just a straightforward way of addressing an obvious need, and it fits that need. Beyond reigning Cy Young winner Garrett Cole, their Yankees rotation is littered with question marks. So many question marks that have to do with injuries that have ruined the bulk of Carlos Rodon's first season in the Bronx. Nestor Cortez as well was limited. Clark Schmidt, Michael King, they traded him to the Padres in the Juan Soto deal, so he's out now. Luis Severino signed with the Mets in free agency. There's been questions now about Jordan Montgomery making a reunion with the Yankees, which could be in replacement of Marcus Stroman. If that doesn't work out, we'll see what that has to do. But the Yankees could well view Stroman as their fourth starter in the event that Cole, Rodon, and Cortez are healthy. Then again, he has pitched, Stroman, a sharp 3.48 ERA in 514 innings since the 2019 trade deadline, fanning 21.4% of his opponents against a pretty nice 7.3% walk rate, and complementing those with terrific 52.5% grounder rates. So, regardless of where they would put him in the slot, there's no doubt that he would be an upgrade for the rotation. Now it just has to do with, personality, the fact that he's going to be playing against in Yankee Stadium. Yankee fans are not easy to play for. Yankee Stadium is not for everyone. Being a Yankee and wearing pinstripes is not for everyone. And he has shown some deep hatred for Yankees fans. And look, I know, obviously, when you are a rival team, you're going to do that. But it just begs the question, Could this be the best decision, or should they be targeting another guy like, I don't know, Jordan Montgomery, who was a bright talent and is a bright talent and could still be a great addition or re-addition, if you will, to the Yankees? There isn't much news regarding that. All that we know is that he is interested and they are interested. They've had conversations. There have been no offers made as I'm concerned with. There's no offers that have been made. No offers in the media as well. Based on that, we'll find out more in the coming weeks. We got spring training in just 2 weeks, and I believe that today, in fact, yes, today it was announced, not only Aaron Boone's coaching staff, which there's no surprises to that, everything as we expected, but that pitchers and catchers will report on February 14th, 2024 in Tampa. So only a little bit away, in fact, almost just a month away. We are a month and 4 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting in Tampa for the New York Yankees. It's getting real around sports. It's getting real, and I am so honored to share it with you. With that all being said, man, a crazy show today. We've gone in so many different directions. We've gone from NFL, we've gone to Antonio Brown, Jim Harbaugh, MLB, and all the way back around. Full 360 today. All directions, and I hope it gets even crazier as the week goes on, because that's what makes this show so great, being able to share with you all and talk about sports, because every day is a great day to talk about sports. My name is Gabby Gordon. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Go visit GabbyGordonShow.com right now if you haven't, so that you never miss a single thing. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Have a great rest of your evenings or wherever you may be listening from, and I will catch you next time.